In the flashback of the story, Aladdin was seen collapsing on his knees, saying he would rather die than to be trapped in this place forever. He asked Hugo what he is. Hugo refused to answer his question, but added that he could grant Aladdin any wish he wants, such as attaining immortality. Soon later in the storyline, Alibaba was loading goods for Boodle. When Alibaba was about to load the goods, he found a young boy feasting on watermelons, which he soon introduced himself as Aladdin. When Boodle found Aladdin feasting on the watermelons, he demanded Alibaba to work until he is compensated for the loss of the watermelons. Later that night, when Aladdin asked about dungeons, Alibaba explained it as mysterious ruins that appeared all over the world 14 years ago, where those who capture it gain both fame and power, which he included that the reward also has a metal vessel with a Djinn in it, which Aladdin was looking for. The next day, when Aladdin was traveling with Alibaba, they bumped into a girl which later was revealed to be a slave. Aladdin freed her, but people showed disapproving expressions, which Alibaba said that it's not a good thing to do as it means stealing a slave, which also happened to be Boodle's. Boodle later threatened Alibaba that if he doesn't compensate for his loss, he would make Alibaba into his slave and started to abuse the girl. However, Aladdin stopped him with his flute, which spread arms and attacked Boodle. This made Alibaba and the crowd shocked. Alibaba asked Aladdin about the flute, which Aladdin introduced it as Hugo and Djinn. Fascinated by Aladdin's flute, he sends Aladdin to a hostel. Boodle's superior Jamil knew about the incident and gave Boodle a job to transport wine and slaves. In the hostel, Aladdin revealed his aim, which is to fulfill his promise to Hugo that he would search for a Djinn metal vessel. Boodle found Alibaba and threatened him whether to work for Boodle for life or die. Later, they found the girl in a cage, which was later revealed that she would be transferred to the mines. On their journey, a desert hyacinth was seen attacking the cargo. While helping Boodle with carrying the wine, Alibaba saw a girl falling down from the cliff, which was saved by the girl they met earlier, and both of them ended up falling into the cliff. Alibaba, worried about them, punched Boodle for just worrying about the wine and went to save them from being eaten by the hyacinth. Aladdin later tried to help Alibaba in his rescue by summoning his Djinn. After defeating the monster, Alibaba and Aladdin set off to the dungeon. After a narrow escape from drowning and being set on fire, our heroes must fight an army of alien ants. Using Hugo's power, they're able to defeat them, but afterwards, a tuckered-out Aladdin collapses. As it turns out, every time he calls his magical friend, Aladdin uses some of his power, and he can only use so much of it before he needs to recharge by eating or taking a bit of a nap. Alibaba looks after the unconscious Aladdin when they're discovered by Morgiana, who has entered the dungeon with her master, Sharif Jamil, and another one of his slaves, the Silent Goltas, in search of Aladdin, whom the Sharif call Magi. Jamil takes Aladdin and ends up persuading Alibaba to join him. The group wanders on until it eventually falls to Alibaba to disarm a particularly fiery trap, and after doing so, he is engulfed in flames. Aladdin wakes up and is left in Morgiana's care, while the other two explore further. As Morgiana is telling Aladdin how Alibaba died, he appears above them and escapes with Aladdin. They reach in front of a huge gate that requires both of their hands to open, as well as a magic incantation. The door dissolves, revealing a whole underground city. Later, Aladdin and Alibaba reach the treasure room. Then Goltas appears and collapses in front of them. When they are distracted by Goltas, Morgiana kicks Aladdin across the room. Jamil has Morgiana to go after Aladdin while he deals with Alibaba. Jamil and Alibaba engage in a sword duel. In their match, Alibaba easily evades Jamil's attacks and knocks him down. Jamil wonders how Alibaba is able to outwit him. When Alibaba has Jamil cornered, Jamil orders Morgiana to save him. Alibaba tries to ask Morgiana to go with him, yet he finds himself slammed by Morgiana into the stairs. Jamil laughs at Alibaba and pets Morgiana. He stomps on Alibaba repeatedly and orders Morgiana to kill Alibaba. In the nick of time, Aladdin destroys Morgiana's sword and demands Jamil to give him back his flute. When Morgiana tries to attack Aladdin, Aladdin binds Morgiana with his powers, recalling his teacher's vision of a great Magi. As Jamil asks Aladdin to make him a king after giving Aladdin his flute back, Aladdin remarks that Jamil is not worthy to be king. Later, Aladdin and Alibaba find Amun, who explain what a Magi's purpose is. Suddenly, someone strikes the tower from the outside, causing the tower to crumble. Despite Alibaba's urge for Jamil's group to leave with them, Goltas frees Morgiana from her chains, and he tells her to go with them as he and Jamil stay behind to face their fate. On the way out, Alibaba and Aladdin chat about their goals and promise each other to go on more adventures. In Kishan, Alibaba finds himself welcomed by the villagers, but he finds Aladdin missing. Meanwhile, in the plains, the Kouga clan find Aladdin sleeping. Alibaba is visited by Morgiana, who thanks him for making use of the treasure he collected to free all the slaves, including her. Alibaba then decides to leave the city looking for his friend. Aladdin wakes up in a nomadic village far away and is welcomed the Kouga clan's leader, Baba. Hakuei Ren, the first princess of the Coup Empire, appears at the village to ask the clan to join the empire, but Baba declines her offer. Fearing that the empire may eventually annex the Kouga by force, Aladdin pays a visit to the princess and she promises him to solve the matter without causing any deaths. Meanwhile, some women from the clan are kidnapped by slave traders and a group of warriors set to rescue them, warned to not kill anybody in order to not cause a war. After the warriors return, bringing the women with them and having fulfilled the promise to not shed any blood, Baba announces her decision to have the clan join the Coup Empire, and the clan agrees. Later, everyone is sitting by a fire having somewhat of a party. After a while, Baba excuses herself, telling everyone she's going pee. She tells herself that she will live on to see her children's children and grandchildren, but soon after she is hit by an arrow. Aladdin wonders what's taking Baba so long. As Aladdin rushes to take Baba to be treated, Hakuei learns that one of the soldiers was killed by an arrow from the Kouga clan, and she leaves the army under the command of her aide, Raisai, to learn the truth about the attack. As soon as Hakuei left, Raisai explains that this is part of his plan to start a war. Hakuei comes across the clan who does not believe her words even after she had herself wounded after refusing to fight back. Baba, who is brought there by Aladdin under her request, reaffirms her decision to have the Kouga become a protectorate of the Coup Empire and allows the princess to return. After Baba dies from her wounds, her spirit appears before Aladdin, who confirms that he is indeed a Magi. Hakuei returns to the camp just to find Raisai and his troops ready for war. She learns that it was all a plot of his to have her killed, and for Raisai to take command of her troops. Hakuei and her assistant Sazan fight against the troops. However, Hakuei's metal vessel runs out of Magoi, causing them to lose the fight. Aladdin arrives and uses his powers to knock Raisai and the troops back. Then Aladdin notices Hakuei's metal vessel. Then Payman, the Djinn inside Hakuei's metal vessel, materializes. Aladdin learns from Payman that Hakuei is her king candidate, appointed by a Magi who lives in the Coup Empire. After bidding farewell to the Kouga clan, Aladdin joins a caravan looking to reunite with Alibaba. While Sasa and Layla are selling their produce, Morgiana arrives to deliver one huge load. Later, Morgiana thanks both Sasa and Layla for helping her and informs them that she is heading to her homeland to honor her savior's wishes. In town, the group see how empty the town is due to the bandits. Layla bumps into a slave trader Fatima, and Morgiana glances at the group of slaves following Fatima. Next day, the head of caravan informs Morgiana that they are taking another route, and he cannot take Morgiana back to her homeland since the bandits' fortress is blocking the other path. At the bandits' hideout, Nando chats with Fatima while Morgiana makes her way to their home base. She jumps down and makes a little announcement. Thinking she's a small threat, one man gets too close to Morgiana, and he gets punched in the gut by her. As she beats up the bandits, Nando tries to attack her, only to receive Morgiana's powerful kick to the face. Watching her, Fatima falls in love with Morgiana's sheer strength and enhanced speed. He sends a crow that tears into Morgiana's shoulder. She succumbs to the toxin and collapses. Back in town, Layla realizes Morgiana is missing and she sees the head of the caravan assembling a small group. Morgiana watches in horror as the child is about to be killed. Then, she hears Golta's voice urging her to fight back, and she jumps high in the air. After she destroys the ankle cuffs by banging them against the metal plate, she unleashes a devastating shriek that scares the hyenas. Releasing the tigers, Morgiana jumps into the fray and brutally smashes the tigers one by one. She leaps towards Fatima and demands the keys. Morgiana frees the slaves and Nadia reunites with her parents. In the crowd, Aladdin calls over Morgiana and explains that the bandits had ambushed the caravan. Outside of the bandits' hideout, Layla's group heads towards the base only to see Hugo popping out. After a night of celebration, Aladdin and Morgiana head towards Balbadd. The Nando brothers trek across the desert and into the forest where they find Sinbad sleeping. The brothers notice Sinbad wears a lot of jewelry. Moments later, Morgiana and Aladdin arrive at the forest. Morgiana thanks Aladdin and informs him that she is heading back to her homeland. Then, the two see something shocking. Sinbad greets Aladdin and Morgiana while nude. When Morgiana smells the sea, she and Aladdin run up the hill, where they gaze upon the kingdom of Balbadd. Sinbad gives the two a tour around the city and explains about the trade, the royal family, and the poverty. He leads them to a hotel where he gives them rooms as thanks. When the guards try to stop Sinbad, Jafar stops them. Inside the room, Sinbad states he has been robbed of his clothes and equipment, which irks Jafar. Jafar reminds him of his responsibility as Sindria's king. In a meeting with King Ahmad, Sinbad asks him to resume trade with Sindria. Ahmad explains about the fog troupe to Sinbad. At the same time, a maid does the same to Morgiana and Aladdin. When the maid mentions Alibaba's name, Aladdin is startled. Sinbad takes the problem in his own hands after Ahmed makes a rude comment. Later, Sinbad treats Morgiana and Aladdin to lunch while he introduces his generals to them. While Sinbad and Jafar chat, Jafar freaks out when Aladdin summons Hugo to show to Masra in the background. Sinbad learns that Aladdin does not know about his adventures and gives him a proper introduction of himself. When Aladdin asks Sinbad what a Magi is, Sinbad explains that a Magi can materialize Djinn and can create Magi. He requests Aladdin to help him capture the thieves, which Jafar asks Sinbad to reconsider. Morgiana states that the thieves are stopping trade, which prevents her from going to the Dark Continent. At the same time, she and Aladdin are looking for someone. Both she and Aladdin agree to help Sinbad capture the thieves. At Morgiana's location, she grabs Aladdin and jumps with him on the roof when she smells the red fog. Jafar explains the scarlet fog is causing hallucinations. Zainab, Hassan, and their group arrive at the building. Hassan uses his weapon to melt through the door. Jafar seizes the thieves with his long strings. As Jafar lands, a black fog subdues him. Then Morgiana attempts to attack Cassim, who binds Morgiana with his ebony fog. Aladdin summons Hugo to block the mansion from the thieves. A mysterious figure passes Cassim and reveals his face to Aladdin, who is shocked to see Alibaba. Aladdin stares down at Alibaba, who asks him to put away Hugo, and despite Jafar's protests, Aladdin does it anyway. Aladdin reminds Alibaba of their promise on that day, going to see the world together. Alibaba apologizes to Aladdin that he cannot keep that promise, and Aladdin is at a loss of words. When the Balbadd military police arrive, Alibaba summons Amun's flames and flood the surroundings with Amun's wrath. Next day, Sinbad chats with Jafar about Alibaba. At the bandits' hideout, Cassim welcomes the Nando brothers, and Alibaba informs them that they are chivalrous thieves who are fighting for the slums. A group of children arrive to thank Alibaba, and Cassim asks Alibaba to save these children. In Alibaba's room, he thinks he senses something, and when he gets on his bed, he sees Morgiana on the ceiling, who muffles him. She reminds him that he was looking for Aladdin 6 months ago, and when Alibaba does not comply, Morgiana kidnaps Alibaba. All of a sudden, Morgiana tosses Alibaba through the window. Moments later, Alibaba and Aladdin have an awkward moment until Morgiana has Alibaba explain everything. Alibaba shares his story about Cassim. In his past, Alibaba and Cassim play with each other in one of their games. Alibaba always comes home to his mother, who was a prostitute. Later on, Alibaba's mother passes away, and Alibaba, along with the other children, did small jobs. On the other hand, Cassim resorts to crime to do the same. When Alibaba asks Cassim if he needs help, Cassim tells Alibaba that he wants him to stay on the path of his mother. Afterwards, Alibaba discovers that his true father is the king of Balbadd, and when Alibaba breaks the news to Cassim, Cassim states that the two were different from birth. Years later, after learning to be a prince at the castle, Alibaba sneaks away to see the slums. He is shocked to see nothing there, and he finds Cassim. Over at a bar, Alibaba shares to Cassim how he snuck out from the castle using tunnels. Alibaba feels stupid when he reflects back on how someone followed him back to the castle. By the king's bed, Rashid Salija tells Alibaba that he wants to leave the country to him. Before Alibaba accepts the offer, he asks his father how he felt about his mother, and the king states that he truly loved her. Then a noise is heard, and Alibaba goes out to investigate, where he gets knocked out after seeing Cassim. Cassim has his followers burn the place. Alibaba begins explaining his past to Aladdin and Morgiana. At the same time, Sinbad eavesdrops on Alibaba's conversations from the next room. In Balbadd, Alibaba investigates what has happened to his hometown. During a raid on a ship, Alibaba encounters Cassim. Cassim explains that the government had burned down the slums due to an epidemic. He states that he started the Fog Troupe to fight for the poor and to rebel against the government. He asks Alibaba to become their leader. As Aladdin listens to Alibaba's story, he makes a connection to the Kouga clan situation. Aladdin reassures Alibaba that he has him and Morgiana as his support. Suddenly, Cassim and his gang crash into the room. Sinbad and his crew engages Cassim's troupe. He manages to inflict damage on Hassan. Morgiana asks Alibaba what will he do. Then, Masra runs and bashes through the gang. Cassim attempts to bind Sinbad but fails. After Masra has captured Cassim, Cassim urges Alibaba to run away. Sinbad points out that Alibaba is a prince. Alibaba takes out his dagger when he thinks Sinbad is making fun of his bond with Cassim and the Fog Troupe. As Alibaba unleashes a barrage of Amun's flames, Sinbad knocks out Alibaba easily. Sinbad remarks that Alibaba cannot properly use his Djinn's powers. He offers his aid to the Fog Troupe, much to everyone's shock. Jafar reminds Sinbad that he is here to fix the situation with Balbadd's trade. Sinbad states that he wants to help everyone in the slums. He asks Alibaba to trust him and explains that his reasons is to stop the distortions of the world. When Cassim refuses to believe Sinbad and mocks him, Jafar attempts to threaten Cassim. Sinbad stops him. Next day, the townspeople read Alibaba's message and arrive at the palace with hopes in their hearts. In Ahmad's royal court, Alibaba requests Ahmad to help the people in the slums. In exchange, Alibaba will disband the fog troupe. However, Ahmad refuses to acknowledge Alibaba or answer his request. Outside, Aladdin notices Juder and the Black Ruck surrounding him. The man presents himself as Juder, an oracle serving the coup empire who claims to have business with Ahmad. Ignoring Alibaba's protests, Ahmad reveals to Sinbad that by recommendation of his financial advisor Markio, he relinquished all of Balbadd's trading rights to the coup empire. Thus, he is not in position to resume trading with Sindria. Back at the Fog Troupe's base, Sinbad announces to the people of the slums that negotiations with Ahmad failed, but for some reason, Cassim and his companions are nowhere to be found. Juder appears before Sinbad and notices that the Ruck behaves strangely around Aladdin. Sinbad then reveals that it is because Aladdin is a Magi just like him. Without any warning, Juder starts attacking Aladdin until Hugo appears to stop him. Juder strikes Aladdin with his ice spears and Hugo shields him with his own body. Aladdin tries to have the wounded Hugo return to the flute, but he refuses. Juder then impales Hugo with a huge ice spear, but the Djinn makes use of his last strength to crush him with his hands. Juder is saved from being killed by the princess of the coup empire and her aide Kouga, who tends to his wounds. Hugo tries to attack them, but the princess defeats him with the aid of her Djinn Vinya. Aladdin then launches himself in fury against the princess, who orders her servants to kill everyone. However, Sinbad intervenes and convinces the princess to retreat. As the wounded from the battle are treated, Alibaba and Morgiana find an exhausted Aladdin who had almost all of his Magway depleted in an attempt to bring back Hugo and is in critical condition. Feeling himself to be useless for not being able to do anything to help and with Cassim still missing, Alibaba is visited by Ahmad's other brother, the Sabmad. Sinbad deduces that it was Sabmad who was leaking info about the army to the Fog Troupe, and he explains that it was all to protect Alibaba, whom he claims is the only one able to stop Ahmad. He reveals that after contracting a huge debt with the coup empire, Ahmad intends to pay for it by selling the people of Balbadd as slaves. Upon hearing that, Morgiana urges Alibaba to make a stand against him. Before returning to the palace, Sabmad warns Alibaba that in 5 days, Ahmad will marry one of the coup empire's princesses, and in the occasion, his decision to turn the people of Balbadd into slaves will be announced. Sometime later, while Aladdin still shows no signs of waking up, Alibaba is informed by Sinbad that in order to stop up Ahmad's plans and prevent the country to be taken over by the coup empire, he must assume the throne of Balbadd. As Alibaba wanders the streets thinking about it, he is approached by Cassim, who is among what remains of the Fog Troupe. Cassim reveals to Alibaba that he already knows about Ahmad's slavery plan, and helped by the weapons dealer who supplies their magic tools, he intends to start a rebellion in 2 days. Alibaba refuses to cooperate with him and affirms that he will look for a solution which does not involve the death of anyone. After Alibaba is driven away by Cassim, he turns to Sinbad and asks him to teach him how to properly use his Djinn. Sometime later, Morgiana tries to find Alibaba with no success and realizes that he had left to confront his brother alone. Meanwhile, at the palace gates, Alibaba stands before the guards, asking them to let him in. Alibaba manages to reach the palace grounds, but Ahmad sends one of the 3 royal guards from the coup empire to kill him. After finally succeeding to properly equip Amon's sword, Alibaba defeats the first guard, but the second guard and his army of monkeys block his way until Morgiana appears to fight in his place, allowing him to keep pressing forward. As Morgiana fights the second guard, Alibaba runs out of Magway while fighting the third guard and creates some fire with oil to power up Amon's sword for an instant, using it to bring him down. Meanwhile, Sinbad learns about the situation and leaves to the palace too. With all the guards defeated, Alibaba reaches the throne room where Ahmad orders his guards to kill him, but Sabmad intervenes of his favor, insisting that the conversation between his 2 brothers must not be disturbed. As Alibaba tries to convince Ahmad to step down, Kouga, the princess they previously met, appears in an attempt to stop the commotion. She claims that even if Ahmad is removed from power, another king must be chosen to marry her as part of Balbadd's agreement with the coup empire, and all agreements between both countries, including the slavery treaty, must be acknowledged. Alibaba instead declares that there will be no king at all because Balbadd's monarchy shall be dissolved and adopt a democratic rule. Sinbad joins the discussion, bringing some representatives of his confederation. The Seven sees alliance with him and offers himself to discuss Balbadd's inclusion in said alliance with the coup emperor in person, prompting Kouga to retreat. As Alibaba addresses his decision to the people, The ruck gathers strangely around Aladdin and Juder while Cassim and his men approach the palace. The crowd cheers for Alibaba's proposal of turning Balbadd into a republic. Cassim and his fog troop arrive on the scene. From afar, Ithnan observes the situation. Zainab fuels the rage of the crowd with her hallucinogenic red mist. Cassim orders everyone to wipe out the royalty, and the crowd starts rebelling while the Black Ruck runs rampant. Elsewhere, Jafar tries to wake up Aladdin. In Aladdin's dream, he wakes up to see Hugo's talking head. Hugo reassures Aladdin that he is still alive, but he was almost dead due to a battle with Juder. In Balbadd, Marquio tries to suppress the Black Ruck, but Ithman crushes him. Meanwhile, Hugo talks about how Black Ruck is formed when the flow of fate is reversed. He explains to Aladdin that he cannot protect him anymore and that he has something important to give him, the wisdom of Solomon. Deep in the vortex of knowledge, Solomon informs Aladdin that he will be reborn. At Aladdin's side, Jafar and Masr head to the palace. Over at the palace, the guards are being slaughtered. Alibaba instructs them to have half of the royal army block off the main gate while the other half suppresses the invaders in the palace. Confronting Cassim and his group, Alibaba demands Cassim to explain himself, and Cassim states that he has no need for equality or kings. When Cassim attacks Alibaba, the others use their black fog to bind Alibaba. Alibaba unleashes his flames to break free, and Zainab blasts him with her red mist. Yet, Alibaba uses Ammon's sword to defend himself. He breaks Hassan's weapon and everyone's swords. He orders Cassim to withdraw, yet Cassim demands Alibaba to kill him. Recalling Ithnan's instructions, Cassim stabs himself with his sword and gathers all of the remnants of his allies' shattered blades which strike his body. Absorbing the household vessels, Cassim transforms into a dark Djinn. Roaring loud, the black Djinn starts bombarding the royal guards with dark magic blasts. When Cassim dives towards Ahmad, Morgiana kicks Cassim down. Alibaba quickly cuts off Cassim's arm, only to see Cassim regenerate his left arm back using the Black Ruck. As Cassim powers up his attack, Sinbad stabs him in the back to manipulate his Magi while urging Alibaba to strike Cassim down. Concentrating his flames, Alibaba thrusts into Cassim with all of his might. Cassim throws Sinbad towards Alibaba, and Morgiana grabs him. Sinbad explains to Alibaba that he has to put everything in one attack to defeat Cassim. Sinbad gives Alibaba some Magi, and as Alibaba dives towards Cassim, Juder intercepts and knocks Alibaba away. With Juder back on the battlefield, Ithnan explains to Juder about his increased powers and tells him to finish off Alibaba. When hope is almost gone, Aladdin soars towards the palace using the power of the White Ruck. Meanwhile, Juder takes control of Cassim and he uses his ice spears to pin Sinbad to the wall. After Morgiana evades Cassim's attacks, Alibaba requests Morgiana to toss him so he can deliver the final blow. She tosses Alibaba high in the air and Juder blasts him. Combining his ice magic with Cassim's gravity magic, Cassim breaks Alibaba's sword. Alibaba asks Morgiana to toss him one more time. Recalling Alibaba's determination, Aladdin arrives in a flash of light before Alibaba. Juder asks Aladdin to show his Djinn, yet Aladdin explains that Hugo is no longer here. Aladdin uses his ruck to materialize into Hugo's form to protect himself from Juder's attacks. Aladdin uses his Har in figure to melt the ice that was pinning Sinbad. He asks Morgiana to bring Sinbad to the city. Then he tells Alibaba that he has no chance of defeating Juder by himself. As Aladdin gathers the White Ruck from the people of Balbadd, Ithman realizes that Aladdin has acquired Wisdom of Solomon. Using Wisdom of Solomon, Aladdin absorbs the ruck inside his body. He explains to Alibaba that he has to pierce Cassim with his sword, and repairs the sword. As Juder rains ice spears down on them, Alibaba manages to dodge them and stab Cassim. Then, Cassim absorbs Alibaba. Aladdin uses his Wisdom of Solomon to tap into Juder, who collapses after remembering some of his dark past. Inside the Black Djinn, Alibaba speaks with Cassim, who states that he has despised him ever since they met. Cassim wonders why he is the only one stained by the darkness, while Alibaba is radiating with the light. Alibaba punches Cassim and explains that he had done things that he is ashamed. The two power up their respective rucks and attack each other. Cassim knocks Alibaba down. Cassim states that everything was decided for them at birth. Cassim stabs Alibaba in the chest with his black ruck, and some of Alibaba's white ruck flows inside Cassim. As a result, Cassim hears Alibaba's words that shatter his blade. When Cassim cries, his world brightens up, and the Black Djinn begins to fall apart. Running towards Cassim, Alibaba tries to grab Cassim's hand and yells out that they are friends. In the palace, Ithman quickly grabs Juder and retreats. Aladdin watches Alibaba holding and bawling over Cassim's dead body. High in the skies, Masr strikes Ithnan with his household vessel. Then, Jafar breaks Ithmin's barrier with his powers. While Ithnan falls down, Sinbad powers up his magic and electrocutes Ithnan in a powerful flash of lightning. Sinbad notices only a doll has fallen. Deep in the sea, a snake swims from Ithmin's disemboweled head. Meanwhile, the men and women of Al-Thaman discuss about the Balbadd incident. Back at the palace, Aladdin points out that the dead is always with them in their hearts and in the Ruq's flow. Alibaba's parents appear before Alibaba, and Aladdin tells everyone to reunite with their loved ones. Then all of the deceased citizens fly towards the Great Ruq. Morgiana embraces both Aladdin and Alibaba. That's all, folks. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to let a comment below, hit the like button, and subscribe for more.